Tonight we are going to be talking about WordPress before we actually get into building our site, just to ensure that you guys actually know how to use WordPress, because I know some of you may be building your first site and others may be more experienced, and just to ensure that you actually know how to use WordPress itself to build a site, I wanted to be sure to include a class on that before I actually proceed on with building the website itself. What was it saying, Brenda, when you were having that problem there? Did it not look like the correct site or something? Like it was actually PayPal? Let me see, one second, guys. It could be JVZoo, potentially, would be my best guess there. Let me pull up a page here for you real quick. Yeah, that's fine, Brenda. I can send you an email about it afterwards. Now, tonight we again are going to be talking about WordPress itself. I want to teach you guys. You're quite welcome, Brenda. It's okay, Ruben. We really haven't quite gotten started yet here, so I don't believe you have missed anything. We are going to be using WordPress tonight, learning about how to actually use it. And luckily, WordPress is actually released an update now, so I can actually use this as part of my class. I didn't originally think that I was actually going to be able to show this to you guys. I thought I would have to simply tell you about it. So I thought I would wait and save that update for this class, and I will be getting to that a little later on here. But to start out with, we are going to first talk about widgets. Now, to show you what a widget is here, go visit the live site, and as you can see over here in the sidebar of the site, each of these different items here, the search bar, the comments, the archives, the categories, this is all widgets. Each one of these is an individual widget that is placed on this site. To change these or to add something to it or to remove a widget that is already there, all you have to do is go to Appearance and then Widgets in the menu right here. And you can see over here on the right that each of the items that were listed previously, they can all be found right here. There are some items here, like recent posts, that were not listed over here on the live website. The reason for this is because there are not any posts actually on the site. So it is simply not displaying that as a widget on the live website. But if I were to create posts on this site, it would then begin to show up over there. just to explain a few things about this widget page here to you guys, you can see over here on the right hand side, I have all of these different widget areas that are available to me. This primary top sidebar is the main sidebar over here on the live website, but there are a number of other places where I could choose to place these widgets on my website if I wanted to. And depending on what theme you actually use on your WordPress site, these widget areas can be different from one theme to the next. This is Weaver though, and they offer quite a few different options, but the primary sidebar is the one that most commonly gets used, and also is the one that I frequently will use myself. If you want to add information down at the bottom of all the pages on your website, you could use these footer widgets, for example. So really just wherever you want to place this different information, you can kind of choose different areas on your live website by simply picking a different widget area. So if you'd like to do a little bit of experimenting with that, just to get a little familiar with how whatever theme you're using works in this area, I would encourage you to do so just to get a little bit more comfortable with that particular system. Now, on these Amazon sites that I'm building, I typically will not use most of these primary sidebar widgets that are already included by default on a site. The search widget, I actually will end up leaving on my sites because I will typically have a decent amount of content and different pages on my site, and if somebody wants to search through that information to try to find something specific, then I would encourage them to do so. But beyond that, I'm actually going to remove the rest of these widgets from my site, and I will later come back in and add more widgets into this sidebar to actually take up that space on my live website itself. Before I get into removing these widgets though, right here in the center of the page, you have all of these available widgets. If I wanted to add a new widget to my site, all I would have to do is click on it and drag it and place it wherever I wanted it to show up over here. And then it would instantly be on my live website. And this takes effect across all the different pages of your site. So it's not just one page of your site that's getting these widgets, it's all of them. I actually like to do a little bit of customization when it comes to my widgets, having certain widgets only display on particular pages on my site. That's a little bit more of an advanced topic, but I will be showing that to you guys once we actually proceed on with constructing the website. But for now, what I'm going to do is simply go through and delete some of these widgets that I do not want to use here. And just to show you guys, a lot of these widgets actually have different options and settings available for them. So you could simply change them and save your changes if you wanted to make some type of adjustment to that widget. I simply want to delete it though, so I'm just going to click on this little delete link and the widget simply disappears. I will continue to do this for the rest of these widgets, leaving only the search widget behind. So after I'm done with that, and I only have this one widget remaining, I can come back over here to my live website and refresh the page, and as you can see, it has now disappeared. All these additional widgets, I only have my search bar located right here. So this is what I'm looking to achieve, to kind of get my site to that initial stage where I can start building upon it. But it also helps you to kind of learn a little bit about the widget system, just simply removing those. Now, when it comes to widgets that I actually add in, some of the most common ones that I will use on my sites will be this custom menu widget right here. I can actually use this to create any kind of page menu that I want to have on the sidebar of my site to link up to various pages throughout the site. The other one that I will often use is simply a plain text widget, and this allows me to type in my own content information to have displayed in the sidebar, but I could also use HTML code or even CSS coding or JavaScript if I needed to. So this allows me to insert things like advertisements or even newsletter sign-up forms, for example. You can just take the newsletter HTML sign-up form and paste it directly into a text widget and have it automatically show up in the sidebar of each page throughout your entire site. It just simply makes the process a lot easier. So again, I will be revisiting this more once we actually start building the website, but this should at least give you a basic understanding of the widget system here to start with. Next thing I'm going to do is move on to the menu system, and this is also found in the appearance menu right under widgets. You can see the menus link right here. This is where I will actually go to create custom menus that I could insert as a custom menu widget right here. But before I actually do that, since I don't have any content on my actual website, there's no pages here for me to use to build these menus with. But what I'm looking to do currently is to create a menu that could replace this primary menu right here, which will stretch across the top of my page right here. Now, this menu, you can name it whatever you want to. I usually just call mine top menu just because it helps to keep you organized if you have a number of different menus that you actually will create on your site. So all you do is type in a name and simply click on the Create Menu button over here. Now once you have done this, you have menu settings that show up down below here. You have this one menu setting that says Auto Add Pages, automatically add new top-level pages to this menu. If this setting was used, what it would do is whenever you create a new page on your site right here, only pages, not the posts that you create. Whenever you create a new page, it would then automatically be added to the menu using the title of that page. Well, in some circumstances where you're only creating a limited number of pages on your site and you're also creating a bunch of posts on your site, that might potentially work, but I actually create nothing but pages on my site. So I don't want to have all of these new pages that I create automatically added to this menu. And in fact, if you don't go through this process of creating this top menu to use here, the automatic menu that gets generated for you right here that says Home, this is going to essentially be that menu. It's going to automatically add all of the new pages that you create to it. So to prevent it from doing that from the get-go, I go ahead and go in and create my own menu. So what I want to do next is select a theme location down here. these theme locations are in relation to where the menu will show up on the site here. The one that I want to use is the primary navigation. This is the default menu. So you can see right here, if specified, this will be used instead of the default menu. So this will overwrite the default menu that automatically gets created on the website. So what I want to do, since I don't have any pages already created on this site that I could add to this menu, and I don't really want to be getting rid of this home link right here, I'm going to create this particular homepage link manually to start my menu off with. So all I have to do is simply type in the address of my website right here. And next to it, I have this link text. This is going to be the text that you see in the actual menu right here. So this says home, and I will also use home for this particular menu item as well. So after I click on add menu, it adds it over here to the menu that I am working on. You can see the home link is my navigation label now, they call it. But I also have this box over here that says title attribute. If I go up here and hover over this link, you see the little white box that shows up directly underneath my mouse pointer that says home inside of it also. That white box and the text inside of it, that is the title attribute. So I can set that to be something a little bit more descriptive than simply just home. I could call this Down Comforter Guide homepage if I wanted to. I will typically try to simply get a little bit more descriptive with this title attribute, just so it makes a little bit more sense to people that are visiting your site. So I saved my menu over here. After you have saved the menu, as long as you have selected a theme location right here for the primary navigation, you can then return to your public site, refresh the page. You won't initially notice any difference. The link itself still says home, and it's still going to the same website address as it was before. But you can tell that it's actually working because of the white box that shows up underneath my mouse pointer for the title attribute. It now says Down Comforter Guide homepage instead of simply home. So I can go back in at a later point in time once I have content on this site, once I have pages that I can add to this particular menu, and then I can simply add those items in as I see fit to create this menu for me, and it'll automatically get updated on my live website. So the next thing, I will obviously be revisiting this once I have more content on the site. For now, I'm going to move on to the next topic that I would like to discuss with you guys. I've mentioned before that I only create my Amazon sites using WordPress pages. The WordPress page system is actually different from another system available in WordPress, which is the post system. But the post system is really kind of intended as the default way of creating content on a site. And typically a lot of people will end up using the post system instead of the page system. There's a number of different reasons why I actually like to use pages instead of post. But instead of just simply saying don't use posts at all, I thought it would still be worthwhile to kind of give you a bit of a walkthrough of the post system here in WordPress to show you what it can do, how it gets used, and exactly why I prefer to use the page system instead. So to start out with, over here you see the post menu right here. I have a number of different options available to me. There is the all posts and add new links, which can basically be found in the page menu as well. You have all pages and add new. But over here in the post menu, you have these two additional links here. One is for categories and the other is for tags. This is actually one of the primary things that makes the post system different from the page system. It is the category and the tag system also connected with it. Pages cannot have categories and tags using this particular system. Now, when I first started using WordPress, I actually liked the idea of having this category and tag system because I like to organize my content. I like to kind of structure it and assign some main category pages and have other relational content on my site grouped underneath those category pages. So initially, I thought this system would be great for what I like to do. But as it turns out, there's actually a lot of different things about the system that I found to be negative drawbacks. The main thing was really that I didn't have complete control over everything. So what I'm going to do is walk you through this really quick here. Starting with the categories, actually, before I get into talking about the post and the tags. Now, by default, you have this uncategorized category right here. This is created by WordPress automatically. So when you go and create posts on a new site, so it actually has something that it can group it into. Well, if you actually were to use this system, you would probably want to create your own categories. So what you would actually want to do is to name a category yourself, and all you have to do is provide a name to do this. So I'm actually going to walk you through the creation of a category really quickly here so you can see how this system actually works for yourself, so I can point out the things about it that you don't have a lot of control over, and that way you can kind of gauge for yourself whether you feel like this system is the right system for you to be using, or if you actually would prefer to use pages like I do, because it can honestly be done either way. You're not going to really notice a major difference in terms of how successful your site's going to be, whether you build it with posts or with pages. It's really just kind of a matter of personal preference for me. I feel like I can build the sites the way I want to build them instead of being restricted by the way WordPress simply wants to build a site by default, basically. So after I've named my category here, I've named this Comforters. This would just be an example category of something that I might use on this particular website. Next is the slug box right here. This box is actually going to end up being the same thing as the category name that you provide if you leave it blank. You don't actually have to put anything in right here. You can see this is a URL-friendly version of the category name right here. So this will automatically get named comforters for me, but it will be all lowercase letters instead of the first letter being capitalized right here. The slug is the word or phrase that will be used in the website address that will actually be used to access this category. So there can be some SEO used here to kind of target various keyword phrases. For example, well, I'll be showing you this here as soon as I get this created. Now that I have added the category into my system, you can see the slug is automatically created as comforters right here. And if I click on the view link and go to view the actual category on my live website, if you look up here in the URL, I have my base domain name for my website right here, and then I have the word category, and then I have the slug on the end of it to identify that category. So this is comforters. So if I created a different category and called it duvets, for example, then it would be category / duvets. Now, there's nothing listed right here in this particular category. Did that answer your question, Clinton? Clinton was asking what is a slug. It's definitely something that can be confusing if you've never seen that word before, for sure. So now that I have, okay, great, thank you. Now that I have this category created in my system, one more thing that I didn't mention over here, you have this description field right here. And you could be inclined to try to add some type of content to this description field, but a lot of themes really do not show this description anywhere on the public website itself. So it kind of just ends up being a description for yourself to use here, and not a way that actually allows you to customize that category page. Now, there may be some themes out there where that's not the case, where it actually uses the description, but most of them really do not take advantage of that particular field right there. So after I have my category created, I'm going to go in and create a new post here real quick. This isn't going to be real content in a real post that I will end up keeping for my live website, but I wanted to simply create this post to again show you how this whole system works, so you can see this content on the live website, and so you can see why it is I don't actually like to use this particular system. Now, I could call this anything I want to. I could create a post about down alternative comforters, for example, and then I could simply just type in any content that I would want to. So the content of my page would be placed right here. And I could continue to go on about, this particular product. I don't actually have to build this particular page, though, to show you how this actually works. Now, let me scroll back up here for a second. As you can see, up here in the corner, there are actually two different tabs. This is referred to as the WordPress editor. This is the page or the post editor. And there's two different ways that you can actually use this. You have the visual tab, and then you have a text tab. Well, the visual tab allows you to simply focus on what the page and the content of that page is going to look like. If you wanted to use some of these toolbar items up at the top here, like bold, for example, to make a certain portion of your text in bold, all you'd have to do is select it and click on the button, and then you actually see the bold text instead of having to worry about the coding that lies behind making that text bold. Well, if you want to get a little bit more complicated with your WordPress sites and actually get involved with the coding that lies behind that to change it or to make some additions to it perhaps, all you have to do is flip over to the text tab right here. And as you can see, instead of seeing this content in bold, I now see these HTML tags wrapping around my content. And this is what is actually causing this text to end up bold right here. So depending on how you actually want to build your sites, you can really do it in either one of these two tabs. If you're more comfortable using this visual tab, that's quite all right. Start out using the visual tab, maybe take a peek over at this text tab after you're finished just to see what it is that has actually created the page that you have put together here, so you can kind of start to understand some of the underlying factors of website design. And you can also use my bonus Techie Masterclass, for example, to learn some of these HTML and even CSS web design techniques to make your sites a little bit more flashier in terms of the content itself. I try not to go too flashy with the actual website, and if I want to do something a little flashier, then I'll try to include that within the content of my page here instead of on the outside part of the website, and that helps to draw the focus in to the content, which is where I actually want people to be focusing instead of being blinded by the fact that I have a really nice looking website, and maybe they simply end up overlooking the content that I really want them to get to. So again, I'm creating this post here, but while I'm on this particular page, I thought it would also be worthwhile to walk you through some of the important parts of this particular editor right here, because minus a couple of small details, this is the same way that you actually create pages. When you go through and create a new page right here, you'll see a page that looks basically just like this, but there will be certain things like these little widget areas over here may actually be different from what you are seeing in the post system here. The SEO settings box right here, this applies to both posts and pages. This is actually created by the Ultimate SEO plugin that we had previously installed on this site. And this allows us to set a title and a description for this particular page. And this is information that will get used in search engines a lot of times. The title tag and the description could end up being what people see in the search results when your page shows up there. So you want to make sure that you have keyword phrases that are being used here, whatever you're trying to target on the page. You know, that should typically be somewhere within the title tag. But then you also want to get a little bit more creative with it and try to draw the attention of people so they will actually click on your listing. Because a #1 search ranking is ultimately not any good if nobody ever clicks on it, because it simply isn't appealing to them, or it doesn't offer information that leads them to believe that your page is going to have what they're actually looking for. So in addition to the actual search engine listing here, there are some other aspects to this SEO settings box that I will typically take advantage of. For example, this social networks listing tab right here. If you have ever gone over to Facebook, for example, and entered in a web page address that you wanted to share to your friends, for example, you know how Facebook automatically retrieves a picture and a title and a description for whatever web page address it is that you entered in? All that information is coming from right here. You can actually control it. So you can set that title and that description and even provide an image that would go along with it. So when people share your content on social networks, or even if you go and share that content yourself on your own fan pages for your site, for example, it will automatically populate all the information that you need to be showing up there. So it gives you a way to kind of regulate that and also to have some kind of control over that information in case other people go and share your pages on your site. There are some additional tabs here. You have this links tab. I'll actually be getting back to this a little bit more in the future. Basically, this allows you to create automatic inbound text links from other pages of your site. So if in the content of another page, if wherever you use the word Azon, for example, if you wanted that word to get linked back up to this page on your site, all you would have to do is just type in the word Azon, and it would automatically create those links for you on other pages throughout your entire website. And you can control settings with this in the SEO plugin itself. And again, this is something I'll get into in a little bit more detail when I actually progress through building this website for you guys. Now, the last tab right here, this miscellaneous tab, this actually allows you to basically tell search engines not to mess with this particular page or the links on this particular page. In most cases, you will not want to actually use these two particular settings. But if you are creating some kind of special page on your site that maybe you are only sending people to if they signed up on a newsletter through your website, for example, and you didn't want that page to get indexed by Google, so people could basically just search on Google for it and find it without having to go through your newsletter, you could just simply click on this first checkbox right here and ask search engines not to index this particular web page. Now, it's no guarantee by using these settings that these search engines will not still go and index your page that you have this particular setting set for. But for search engines like Google, you can go through as long as you set up the site with Google Webmaster Tools, and you can exclude certain pages from getting included in their indexing of your site, or even forcibly remove pages that have perhaps already been indexed that maybe you don't want to be there. Google Webmaster Tools is something else that I will be adding to the site at a later point in time once the site is actually completed. So that's something I will also be talking about in a little more detail as this series progresses. Now, the next section of settings that I want to talk to you guys about is Weaver 2 options for this particular post. this whole box of settings right here is only there because of the theme that I am using on this particular site. So if you happen to be using a different theme other than Weaver 2, then you might not have these options available to you. And this is actually another one of the reasons why I like to use this particular theme, because it gives me a certain level of control over the standard way WordPress typically puts pages together on a site. So there are all these different options available to me, and these options actually change whether I am creating a post or a page. And Weaver gives me many, many more options when I'm creating a page compared with a post. There's actually like 2 or 3 times more settings than just the ones that you can see right here for pages. So that's yet again another particular reason why I prefer to use the page system, because Weaver gives me more customization options for pages. But for the options that are available here for these posts, some of these I will still commonly use on some of the sites that I actually do use this post system on. I have a lot of other sites besides just Amazon sites, so I actually do have some sites that still use this particular post and category system. One thing in particular, sometimes I might not want to show the actual title of a post at the top of the page. I can hide that by simply clicking on this checkbox. All the different aspects that go along with a post, like where it's showing the author's avatar with it and featured images, you can disable all that type of stuff through here. And also one other particular setting, this allow raw HTML and scripts disables auto paragraph, texturize, and other processing. I actually find myself using this setting. It's available on the page editor as well. And what this actually does is it disables the standard WordPress system, where if I simply hit enter and I proceed with creating a second line of content where they're separated by a line, I'm not providing the HTML coding to actually separate these 2 lines of text on my live website. If you go and look at the actual coding of it here, you can see they're separated by a blank line. Well, when WordPress actually processes this information on the live web page, it's actually going to add auto paragraph HTML to this coding. And what that would actually look like is these little P tags. So you would have an opening and a closing P tag on either side of both of these 2 particular lines. And that ensures that the content is getting displayed on separate lines. Well, there are some examples where you might find yourself wanting to actually disable this auto paragraph system, these paragraph tags right here. If you have some kind of complicated HTML coding or CSS coding, for example, that you have copied from another site and you're wanting to paste it in to your WordPress page, you would do that through this text tab right here. But if you paste some complicated coding in there, like CSS coding, for example, this auto paragraphing will actually mess up that coding for you. So if you ever go to paste some type of code into a WordPress page and it doesn't show up correctly on the live page, try disabling or enabling this particular feature right here and update your page and see if that helps to correct the problem. Because I know personally I've ran into some major headaches before I discovered this particular feature right here. So it may not be something that you'll use immediately, but eventually if you continue to build websites with WordPress, you will probably run into a circumstance where this particular feature really helps to save you. In addition to that, one other thing that I wanted to mention about using this particular feature right here. If you have any plugins that you're using on your site and they're using shortcodes, you can see an example shortcode right here. They have these bracket symbols surrounding them. A lot of different plugins, including a lot of my own Amazon advertising plugins, take advantage of this WordPress shortcode system where with my plugins, for example, wherever this shortcode is placed at within the content of your page, when you're viewing that page on the live website, the shortcode is replaced with the actual advertisement that the plugin is generating. So if you are using shortcodes in the content of a particular page, make sure you don't use this particular setting, because part of this other processing right here is kind of a vague language that they use, but this other processing, one of the things is actually shortcode processing that's taking place there. So if you see these shortcodes showing up on the live website and you've used this particular feature, then that's actually why that happens. So you want to make sure you're not mixing the shortcodes in with pages where you might have some kind of special HTML and CSS coding where you would actually want that auto paragraph feature disabled. So just to ensure you guys don't run into some problems with that, I wanted to be sure to actually point that out to you. Now, there are some other options here. The keyword statistics plugin that I installed before, that shows up down here. You can also enable or disable comments and even trackbacks on individual posts and pages with this box down here at the bottom by simply selecting or unselecting these checkboxes here. Custom fields right here, you will not typically be using this. A lot of the plugins, like these SEO settings right here, as you start to enter in information here, it may actually save that information as a custom field with this particular page. So it's just stuff working kind of in the background. But a large majority of you will probably never have a use to actually mess with this yourself. But I will be going through in a future lesson at least a tutorial on creating widgets that only show up on particular pages of your site, where you would only want to have it on a few different pages, and on different pages of your site you would use a completely different widget. That can be accomplished using these custom fields, and so that particular purpose I will actually be walking through you guys for you guys in a future class. The advantage of using shortcodes, Clinton, it's really just something that plugins and sometimes WordPress themes take advantage of. It essentially helps to simplify everything for you and also still leave total control to the plugin or whatever is using that particular shortcode. So with one of my Amazon plugins, for example, you would have a page that has a shortcode in it, and this shortcode might be for a particular Amazon product. So it would be a product advertisement where the person could click on it and then proceed on to Amazon to complete a purchase. Well, you could obviously try to create your own product advertisements using your own custom HTML coding and CSS coding, and then going over to Amazon and manually generating affiliate links for them, and build all of that within each of the pages of your site where you wanted to have advertisements. But then if you wanted to make a change to that advertisement, specifically if you had multiple advertisements that you created and put on different pages throughout your site, if you wanted to change perhaps the design of those advertisements, then you might actually have to go into each individual page and do some editing to the coding that you've built for those advertisements. But with shortcodes, you don't have to ever go in to the page itself and edit it to change anything about the advertisement. All that is controlled through the plugin that is generating that advertisement through that shortcode. So you could, for example, go into one of my plugins and just change the design of the ads, and it would reflect that change throughout all of the ads across your entire website. So you wouldn't have to go through and edit each individual page, for example, where you had those advertisements. Now, the next part that I would like to point out here with this post system before I actually show you, you're welcome, Clinton. The shortcodes will make more sense once we reach I believe it's the 9th class. Once we proceed with creating the Amazon advertisements, we will be using some of these shortcodes. You really don't have to worry about them being the person that's building the site itself, though. You just create the advertisements and the plugin automatically creates the shortcodes for you. You just have to really decide where to put them in your content to make the advertisement show up. But I'll be walking you guys through all that once we get to that particular point in the class where we're going to be adding the advertisements onto the site. That's a good question, Ruben. He's asking, do shortcodes help to speed up the site? Technically, I would say that using a shortcode would really be a little bit slower than just manually creating whatever you wanted to create, but it's a matter of whether the average WordPress user has the technical knowledge to actually create something like that from scratch. And then it's also a matter of being able to update that information easily across a whole bunch of different pages at one time. But in terms of actually your page loading, a shortcode being there can actually slightly slow it down, but we're really talking about fractions of seconds here, maybe even hundreds or even thousandths of seconds. So it's kind of still processing that WordPress will put a page through, whether there is a shortcode there or not. But then there is some additional processing that would take place to basically replace that shortcode with whatever it is that is supposed to be replacing it on the live website. So with my plugins, like generating the actual HTML for the advertisement itself, and then that HTML replaces that particular shortcode. I guess that was a bit of a long answer. It does slow it down a little bit, but I feel like the overall benefits, even for me, where I could create a site, using nothing but custom HTML coding and using 0 plugins if I wanted to, it simply takes a lot longer just to do the creation process, not to mention any additional maintenance and updating to it. So for simply ease of use, even somebody like me with a lot of technical knowledge, I would still prefer to use the plugins and the shortcodes and take that little bit of a time penalty, so to speak. Now, over here in the sidebar, I have a number of different settings boxes that are also shown to me here. Up at the top here, I have the box that is actually used to publish the content on my live website. All I have to do is click on Publish right here, and it's instantly live on the public website. But there are also other options available to me here. If I'm sitting here working on a page and I really want to see what this page is going to look like before I go ahead and publish it, I could click on the preview button and it will open up a new window for me and show me what this page will look like using the current content and settings that I have provided for it here. If I wasn't quite finished with this particular post that I was creating and I wanted to be able to come back to it later and finish it before I published it, I could simply save it as a draft, and then I could come back in and edit it, and it won't show up on my live website until I actually click this publish button here. Now, in addition to that, there are these little edit links next to each of these items listed right here. Some of these items are actually kind of useful. For example, in the visibility, if you click on edit, it expands some additional options and settings for you. Typically, most of the pages that you build will be public pages, but you also have additional options, like you could create a private page where this would only allow other administrators of your site to be able to view that content. Or you could create password protected pages where if you wanted to create that page that you didn't want in search engines picking up, in addition to keeping search engines from indexing the page, you could also password protect it and simply provide that password once people sign up for a newsletter or something, so they could gain access to that particular page. It's a really simple way of protecting content. It's not absolute protection. Obviously, people could still share that password because it would be the same password from one user to the next. But for the amount of work that it actually takes to put something like this together, it's a really simple way to kind of accomplish that and still get at least some degree of protection from keeping people from accessing this page that haven't actually gone through whatever process it is that you would want them to go through to be able to access the page, like signing up for a newsletter. So it's a way to avoid having to set up a more complicated system while still getting some of the benefits from a more complicated system. But typically, again, most of the pages you create will just simply be public pages. Well, if you go through and let's see, Michael, isn't there a plugin called Raw HTML that'll automatically disable that WordPress paragraph feature? I'm sure there is, Michael. The question, I guess, is whether that particular plugin, if you completely disable the auto paragraph feature, where if you just came in and typed this content right here, and you had it separated by 2 different lines, when you actually go and view that content on the live site, this content is going to end up showing up to the right of it, or even directly underneath it if there's not enough space for it over here. So the auto paragraph feature, in a lot of cases, when you're just simply writing content to have on this particular page, I find the auto paragraph to be useful because it prevents you from having to actually add the HTML coding that you would need. Like, you could obviously add your own line breaks yourself and disable the auto paragraph, and this would automatically drop everything, to the appropriate line. But for the sake of most writing, I think it is okay to leave it enabled. It doesn't typically mess up standard content, and even a lot of basic just HTML. Any HTML that you're doing up here with these different buttons, for example, will typically not be altered by the auto paragraph feature. So for what most people will be using these pages for, building on these pages, I think it would be okay to leave it enabled site-wide and simply to have that option to disable it. But I'm sure there are plugins that would probably do that same thing. You're quite welcome, Michael. Now, the next item here, this publish immediately. If I were to go through my site and build a bunch of different content pages, perhaps in one single day, let's say I actually hired an outsourcer and had them write me a bunch of different articles, and then I went to go load them up on my site. If I simply went through and created the pages and clicked the publish button after each one, it would basically look like my entire site was all created and written in a single day. But if I wanted to try to space out that content over time a little bit, I could go through and instead of immediately publish everything, I could publish it for a future date and time. So I could kind of space out my content and have something new posted every day or every couple of days or whatever the case was going to be. So perhaps my 20-page site would look like it was built over the course of a month instead of in a single afternoon, perhaps. When it comes to search engines and building up your website, they do want to see a site appear to be more naturally built instead of just simply not being there one day and being there, completely done the next day. I think it's a better way to go to kind of add the pages and let them be published to your site as you go through and create your content for them, so it appears to be a little bit more natural in terms of the dates. Now, in addition to this publish box right here, before I actually proceed with publishing this particular post so you can see how all this looks on the live site, there's a few other boxes down here that I want to point out to you. First of all, we have this format right here. This is only used for posts. It allows you to take advantage of some different templates that can be used to change the way this post will actually appear on the live site. But I typically don't take advantage of a lot of these. They are for very particular purposes, so if you happen to be wanting to do something that matches something that you see over here, it may actually be a good fit for you if you happen to end up using this particular post system. But you won't see this on the actual page editor. Next, I have the categories and the tags down here. This is the category and the tag system that is connected with the post system. So this is only found with post and not with pages. So all you have to do right here is select the category, and it could even be multiple categories where this post is associated with that particular category. And in addition to the categories, you also have tags. Tags are, in a lot of ways, essentially the same type of thing, but instead of being the primary method of organizing the site, a tag is kind of just a secondary method of organizing all the different posts that you might have on a site. You have to think about what WordPress was really intended to be used for. This is a blogging platform. So the post system is really kind of intended for blogs and not really for more standard types of websites. So you would typically on a blog have a lot of different posts, sometimes multiple posts that would be put up every single day. And these tags would give you a way to organize those different posts with different topics. Whatever that particular post was about that wasn't already being used as a category up here, you could use as a tag. And then you could have other posts on your site using the same tags. And then just like you have category pages linking up to all the different posts that are grouped into that category, you also end up with tag pages that group all the different posts with that particular tag. So for this example, I could create a tag called pins on, perhaps, and I could also do another one for down alternative. So these would be two additional tags that would be used for organization in addition to my category grouping right here. Now the last box here, this featured image, this is actually useful if you want to have a thumbnail of a picture showing up next to the listing for this particular post. And you can add pictures into both posts and pages using this Add Media button. It's really pretty straightforward. All you have to do is select the file you want to upload, and then you just insert it into the content of your page. Well, any of those images that you upload can be specified as the featured image for the post. I'm going to go ahead and publish this particular post now so you can actually see how this works on the live site here. Now, when I visit the post page, you can see up at the top, I have these links that are going. These are called breadcrumb links that are going one to the home page and one back to the category page that this particular post is grouped under. I kind of like this in terms of it gives a structure to the site using links that kind of helps to sort this particular content. But a lot of the other parts of this particular post system I'm really not that fond of. First of all, you have this information line right here below the actual title of the post where it says posted on, and it gives the date. And then you also have the author name, and this actually goes to an author page where you have the author archives for whatever author name you have specified for yourself, and it will then list all the different posts that were created by that particular author. Well, again, this only works for the post system here. Now, I'll show you in just a second here another reason why it is I don't like this. You have the main content of your page right here. It's okay, Stan. Sorry you missed the beginning here. Glad to see you though. We are walking through learning WordPress tonight, Stan, and I've just created a post and I am explaining this particular post on the live site and kind of also talking about why I don't like this particular post system. So I have this author page, which I have opened up over here, and then I have the content of my page. And then in the bottom of the post here, I have this additional line of information that also has more links. I have a link to the category, and I also have a link to tag pages for each of the different tags that I have assigned to this particular post. So I have this comforters page, and I have this down alternative page, and I have this pins on page right here. So I'm going to flip over here to the category archive page. This is category/comforters. So this would be the main page for this particular category. So any post that I assign to this category would simply be listed down below right here. Now, the way all of this works, the way this is displayed to you, the way the actual category page here looks, the title that is used up at the top of it here, the text that is used right up here in the breadcrumb links, I don't get any control over this. All of this is done automatically by WordPress and or my theme. So all I'm going to end up here with for a category page is simply a list of all the different posts that are on in this particular category. And then if I switch, for example, over to the tag page for down alternative, it does the same exact thing. If you see here, when I flip back and forth between the category page and the tag page here, they're essentially identical pages with the exception of this information right up top here, which I can't even edit or add to in any way. Yes, you're exactly right, Michael. Michael said, is that the duplicate content penalty? That is exactly what this is. If you do this on your live site and allow search engines to pick up all of these different pages, the category pages and the tag pages, and even perhaps your author page, you can see this page didn't even change with the exception of what's listed up here. Depending on how your content is organized, if you use a limited number of categories and a limited number of tags, you could end up with numerous pages on your site that are essentially identical with the exception of basically 5 words. The rest of the site, the page, would be completely the same. So, this is what is commonly referred to as the duplicate content penalty. You don't want to have the exact same content on multiple pages of your own website, because Google looks at these as basically worthless pages. Why would you create these additional pages on your site when they're the same. They offer the same information. They have the same links, the same content. They're just worthless pages is what I like to refer to them. Yeah, that can definitely get your your site spanked there, Ruben. That's for sure. So yeah, you want to avoid this duplicate content possibility. Now, if you had a pretty extensive site that had a bunch of different categories and a lot of different tags to where each of your different tag pages wouldn't be listing the same exact post as the other tag pages on your site, then it could potentially grow into something where you didn't have that duplicate content penalty, but you're still ultimately just building a page out of information rehashed from other pages, and none of it is unique whatsoever. So I really just don't find these to be valuable pages on my site. They don't help me to serve the purposes that I'm trying to accomplish. They don't help my website visitors even. So, and on top of that, they're not helping my search rankings. So it's kind of everything piling in together has kind of been the reason why I have moved away from this post and category and tag system, because it just seems like a lot of additional pages on the site that ultimately don't accomplish anything for me or really do anything. Michael, that's a good question. Does WordPress still do this even if we don't use tags? You would not have tag pages created for you automatically. You would still have the author page, and you would still have your category pages that listed the different posts. So for example, if you only created one category, then your category page and your author page would end up essentially being identical minus a couple of words. But it wouldn't create those additional duplicate tag pages. And there are some ways where you could like use your SEO plugin and actually prevent the category and the tag pages from getting indexed while the rest of your content would get indexed. But I kind of find that to be a little pointless in a way, because the category pages, I want those to get indexed. But I also don't want to just be limited to simply listing the different posts that are part of that category. I want to have more control over how I present that actual information to my site visitors. So to accomplish all of that, I just simply use the page system. Now, the page system, I'm going to go over here and go to the Add New Page link, just so you can see how all of this works in comparison. And I'll create another just quick sample post here. I could call this something different. I could call this like Pacific Coast Down Comforter, just to change it up a little bit here. Now, I'll add my content. And this is just going to be some basic placeholder content, again, so you can simply just see how all this actually works and how it compares with the actual post system. Now, I'm going to proceed down the page here. The first thing I want to point out, which I had mentioned before, are the Weaver 2 options. There are a lot more options available for me down here than were previously provided for me on the post page. Now, I'm going to go ahead and actually publish this particular page at this point so I can point out a couple of things here to you. Now you can see this on the, wait a second, that's not right. There we go. You can see this particular page on my live site with my sidebar located over here. But if you look at the actual content of my page, I have my title right here, and I have the content that I added to the page editor right here. Beyond that, though, there is no additional content on this particular page, with the exception of the breadcrumb links that are shown up above the title here. Whereas on the post page, I have this additional line down at the bottom of my content with the category and the tag links. And then I also have this information line here with the date and the author name. Now, in some situations, having a date associated with the content you create on a website can actually be useful. Situations where the date where you wrote the content would actually matter, where it's something that was time sensitive. If I was going to teach you how to build a website with WordPress, for example, you wouldn't want me to teach you with information from 2010, for example, because it would be different from what would actually be done now in 2013. You would want more up-to-date, relevant information. Well, the same thing could kind of apply to these Amazon affiliate sites. There are some situations where having that date associated with it and it being a recent date could actually help you in terms of making your content more relevant and possibly more popular. But you also have to think long term here. You're not really just building these Amazon affiliate sites to get good traffic and good earnings for a couple of months and then essentially have that disappear or dissipate to a level, far from what it used to be. You kind of want everything to remain the same or even to grow over time instead of shrink over time. And I feel like having dates associated with your content can cause everything to kind of shrink over time instead of to grow, because if you're not updating your site on a regular basis, then a couple years down the road, you just simply have an old website. So, I want to avoid all of this by simply going with the page system. It doesn't associate a date with my content, and it doesn't show all that additional information here that really isn't relevant to what I'm trying to do. So this gives me complete control, 100% in fact, over the content of this particular page. So you might say, well, 100%, well, what about this, and what about the title, and what about the widgets over here? Even all this stuff, I can still easily change that on one individual page of my site if I need to. Obviously the title, and right up here is also the title. This gets controlled by the title of my actual page here. So if I wanted that to say something different, I could simply change my title right here and get that to say something different. But down here in the Weaver 2 options, there are actually a number of different settings that I can use here that can help me to have 100% control over how this looks and the information that is actually getting displayed there. So what I could do is click on Hide Page Title, for example. And this would help eliminate the actual title showing up on my page here. But I'm going to go ahead and do one additional thing. And in this drop-down box next to Select Sidebar Layout, I can select No Sidebars right here. So I'm going to go and update this page real quick and refresh it so you can see exactly what is happening here. You can see the title of my page now is no longer being displayed. So if I just wanted to be showing the content here, then I could do that. And this eliminated my sidebar. So now I have all of this width right here that I could work with. I can flow my content this far over instead of being chopped off at the sidebar. If this was a page that I wanted to do something a little more in-depth with, for example. Well, I still have this breadcrumb link up here. What if I didn't want this to be showing up? I could simply come back to my settings here and click on Hide Info Bar on this page and update my changes. And then when I refresh my page, then that link info bar disappears. And literally all that is left in the content of my page is the actual content of my page. There's nothing else. So I have 100% control over what I want to be showing up here. So what I will actually do is to use this page system to create anything that I want to create on the WordPress site. I will still create category pages, but I create category pages using pages right here. I don't use these categories with the post system. I simply create my own customized page, and then I can have whatever content I want to have on that category page. And then I could link up to the different pages that I want to link up to for that category page. It takes a little bit more time, obviously, because it's not generating that category page for me automatically like it was doing with the post page, for example. But again, it gives me 100% control over everything. And I will be revisiting this more in a future class, next class I believe actually, where we actually begin to build the site. And I have some HTML and CSS coding that you guys can use for your category pages to create a little bit of a stylish interface that's still simple but helps to draw people's eyes, and use that on your category pages to link up to the other content pages on your site. So I'll be discussing at least a couple of different tactics with you guys in terms of how you can do that. Another option, you can actually turn a page into a category page, just like this category page, to where you still use posts, for example, and associate them with categories, but then you're actually using a customized page to create the category itself. And all of that is done with these additional options that are available right here. You see settings for page with post template right here. You have these different template options. You can simply select page with posts and update your page. And once you do that, you scroll back down, and that provides another complete section. This whole section of settings right here just showed up after changing that template option. And I could simply go right here and type in comforters for category. And there are different options where I could do titles and featured images, excerpts, full posts, titles only, for example. It gives me a little bit of control, even though it's not 100% control over everything. It still gives me at least some degree of control over how all that works. So just by providing this category name right here, let me update this page one more time and revisit my live site. You can see that I have now created my own customized category page that then lists the different posts that are found within the comforters category. Now, the only drawback to this is that it doesn't associate this page as being the category page. Like when you have the links to your comforters page, see it points to category/comforter still. It doesn't point to this particular page. So there are still some drawbacks to using that still automated system, the page with the post. I actually don't use that on my site, so I still just do it manually and link up my pages together. But for those that find the post system appealing in one way or another and still wanted to use that but wanted control over the content of your category pages, this is one way that you can actually accomplish that. I believe that is everything that I wanted to point out about the pages here. Pretty much everything else works the same as it does with the post creation that I had just previously showed you. You still have comment and trackback control for each individual page right here down at the bottom. And you still have all the different publishing options available to you here. But your categories and your tags are no longer available. You still have featured images, and you still can upload pictures and all that other stuff that you did with a post. You can still do that with a page. You just don't have the extra category and tag system attached to it. One last thing here that is worth pointing out to you guys. And this kind of applies to not just the post and page system here, but really to almost any administration page throughout WordPress. Something that a lot of people may not realize is that there are often different features of WordPress that are not shown to you by default, simply because they want to simplify everything for you as much as possible. So they won't show you particular things. But WordPress can actually do more than what you may have previously thought that it could do. All you have to do is click on this Screen Options button right here, and it expands everything for you to show you the different options that are available on the page that you are viewing. And again, whichever different page you're on, if you go to the dashboard, for example, the different screen options can change from one particular part of WordPress to the next. So if there's some part of this page that you find yourself using all the time, and maybe there's something you find yourself never using, like maybe you don't ever modify the discussion or the comments section because you've already set those settings properly in the discussion page of WordPress. So you could simply not show those and save yourself a little bit of room by simply checking those right there and making them disappear. One particular thing worth pointing out, though, that some people may not realize exist is the revisions. Once you create content on a WordPress site and go through and update that content in future visits to that site, WordPress actually saves each of the different versions of the page that you are working on each time you actually publish it or update it. And they save that as revisions. Well, you can find that right here in the publish box. See, there are 2 revisions that are listed here. You can also find that listed in the revisions box down below. And if you don't see this, you can make it show up with this checkbox right here. So it's actually really cool and easy to use if you wanted to roll back to an old version of your page, or maybe you deleted some content and didn't realize it until you went and looked at your live website, perhaps. You could go back into your old content. So this might be your current content, whereas this might be the old content listed down below it. And you simply click on it. It'll actually compare your content from your current content to the old content, and if you want to restore it, you can just click on the restore button and it'll restore the entire page for you. Or you could just pick and choose different parts of your content to take back and add in manually, for example. But personally, I find this revision system to be extremely handy. I've used it over and over and over again, really. The last part of WordPress that I would actually like to talk to you guys about tonight, at this point at least, you should be able to technically go through and build a WordPress site now. It's really all about just creating these pages, putting them into menus, using widgets to enhance your page in the sidebars, and just linking everything up together. So it's really just taking these basic concepts and putting them together is all it takes to create a site. Now, I will walk you guys through doing all of this starting with the next class, but tonight was really just more of a tutorial class more than it was a, doing something or building the website type of class. Let's see, Michael, could we just use the parent-child page format? Yeah, there are some different options in terms of the WordPress system. I believe you're talking about back here on this page. Is it not right here? I know exactly what you're talking about, Michael. I thought it was on the page editor window, though. It might just be because perhaps I don't have enough content listed here. There should be a little parent drop-down box here, which is what Michael's referring to. It's probably just because it's my only page that I've created, where you basically will assign one page as the parent page and another page as the child page. It is kind of the same thing. There's kind of some advantages and also maybe some drawbacks to using that particular system, Michael. I will briefly touch on that when I actually go through and build the site, just to show you the difference between how that works and the way that I do it. So there are some ways that you can do it. The main thing that setting it up as a parent and a child helps you to accomplish is the breadcrumb links that show up at the top of your pages. Let's see, I don't have any of them that actually show. This one will still show it. these breadcrumb links, it would help you to add new links in here, like an in-between link for the category page. Typically with a page that you create, it'll just say home and then the page that you're on. But if you sort it as a parent and a child, then the parent would be listed right here basically as a category page, and the child would be listed underneath it like this. So yeah, there can be some advantages to using that particular format to organize your pages, Michael. But it's something you need to do from the get-go, like one way or the other, because when you sort a page and assign it as having a parent page, then it'll actually change the website address of that particular page. So for example, even though this is a post right here that I'm on, if I could set this to a parent of a custom page that I created that was just the URL for it was maybe just comforters or something like that, then if this was sorted as a child page of the comforters page, then it would change the URL to something more like this, comforters / pins on alternative comforters. So you know, you want to make sure you do that sorting if you are going to do it from the get-go before you put the rest of your site together. That way, when you start linking up pages together manually, perhaps, you won't have to actually go through and update links because your URLs change once you sort all of your different pages and into parents and childs. But again, I'll touch on that in more detail once that class rolls around, Michael. So the last thing that I actually want to talk about here is the WordPress updates. Whenever there is a update to the core WordPress software, that will show up in yellow text right here. It'll just say WordPress whatever version is available, please update now. There's another way you can reach that same page though. Through dashboard and updates, you can see the little number showing up beside updates right here that tells me I have 2 updates available. And if I hover over it, you can see the little box that shows up below my mouse pointer. It says 1 WordPress update and 1 plugin update. So this is 1 update for the WordPress core and another update available for a plugin that I have installed on this particular site. You can also see that updates are available for the plugins based on the number showing up right here. You can see the number 1 showing up next to plugins. And if I click on that, you can see the little yellow box right here that says there's a new version of this available. You can view the version details or you can update now by simply clicking on this text link right here. You will upgrade that plugin to the new version. It downloads it, it installs it, and it automatically updates and reactivates everything for you. So there's really nothing else that you have to do in most cases, unless there was something particular about that plugin update that required you to go through the settings of that plugin and, you know, make some kind of changes. Typically, after an update, there's nothing else to do. So I just updated this particular plugin to the new version that was available for it. This was likely released to correspond with the new WordPress version, though. So everything stayed up to date. Well, even though we haven't gotten to it yet, when it comes to my own WordPress plugins that I provided for you guys as part of this course, I maintain those plugins and continue to release new updates for them, whether it may be a bug fix update if WordPress updates, for example, sometimes they'll make changes to part of the core system that one of my plugins depends upon, and it might break something, so I'll have to release an update for it. All those updates for my plugins are done the exact same way. You'll see a little yellow box showing up underneath the plugin that says there's an update available for it, and you just click on the text link to perform that upgrade. I also do updates to my plugins to add new features to it. It's not only bug fix type of maintenance. I still continually improve my plugins, even my very first plugin, Product Style, that I originally created over 4 years ago now. I still update that one, and actually am planning on a new major version release of that plugin sometime next year, and another plugin, Azon, that you guys received as part of this class, that's currently getting a new version release with a lot of really cool new features. So make sure you always keep an eye out on your plugins list page to see when new versions of not just my plugins but other plugins are available, because you can add new features or fix problems. Sometimes you maybe weren't even aware the problems existed. So always make sure you try to keep your software up to date, unless you have a really good reason for not doing so. If you perhaps made some custom edits to a plugin or something, you wouldn't want to update that because it would wipe out those custom edits. But the average user will not be doing stuff like that and can simply upgrade their software freely without typically having to worry about it too much. Now, WordPress itself. Yes, Ruben, when we get to the plugin, the advertising class in this particular course, I will be showing you how to get all those plugins set up and configured. I've just saved that for that particular class, so that class will be all about my plugins and setting up the Amazon advertising on the site, just to kind of keep everything organized as much as I possibly can. Now, WordPress itself, you have the core updates that you can do the same way as the plugins, except all this is done through this WordPress updates page. Now, I probably should have visited this page first because I've wiped it out now that I've updated my plugin, but you can just visit this one particular page, Dashboard and Updates, to find out if you have not only a new version of WordPress that needs to be installed, but also whether you have plugins or themes that have new updates available for them as well. All that gets listed right here. The plugins right here, it'll just list them one by one, and you just click on a checkbox next to them, and there will be a button included that you just click on, and it'll update all those plugins or themes at once. Well, the same thing really applies here for WordPress itself. All you really have to do is click on this Update Now button, and it will update WordPress on your site. Now, a few things to mention concerning updating WordPress here. If you already have an established website that has obviously had a lot of time and effort put into creating that website, if you want to be absolutely sure that updating this new version of WordPress doesn't cause any problems on your site, and this could honestly apply for any update, not just WordPress, but even plugin or theme updates as well. The best thing to do is to update your site after you have actually made a backup of it. This includes both your files in your website's public directory, typically the public HTML directory, and also the database for the entire WordPress database for your site. The database actually contains all of your content, all the pages that you're building on the site, all the settings that you're entering, all that is in the database. So just copying the files off of your site will not allow you to restore your website should something happen to it. So make sure you get both the files and the database for those backups. Now, the actual procedure for performing a website backup, you would want to do that through your control panel. I have actually provided a tutorial for doing that in the bonus Techie Masterclass that should be found in the very first class of that particular series. So if you're not sure how to back up your database and back up the files of your website, then I would recommend to refer to that particular class to get that information, since that has been included for all of you guys that are attending tonight. That backup of the files in the database, it's not just useful for performing these updates to WordPress or to the plugins or the themes. It can also be useful for moving your website from one server to another. It could be useful to simply have a hard copy backup of your website on hand that could be used in the case of an emergency. If something happened to your website, if something happened to the server where your website resides, it's a machine. Machines break. People have accidents. There's fires. There was a web server warehouse that got struck by lightning in the last year or so, and the whole thing burnt down, and everybody that had websites on servers there lost everything. That hosting company had a source of their own backups, but I believe that was also located in the same building and also ended up getting destroyed. So, don't ever 100% rely upon perhaps your web hosting company to have a backup of your site for you, because it may not always be the case. So what I would actually recommend to do, once you complete construction of your entire website to where you're done building things on your site, except for possibly some minor ongoing maintenance and updates to it, then go ahead and create a full backup of the files and the database from your site, and just copy that to a CD or put it on a USB memory card or something. Anything you can remove it off of your computer and off of the internet with, so you have a hard copy of your website sitting somewhere to use in case of an emergency. And one of those times could be if you perform a WordPress update, for example, and it just messes things up. It's not common, but if you're using a large combination of different plugins and themes on a site, you could run into some kind of compatibility issue when you upgrade WordPress, for example. One of the plugins might not be compatible with the new WordPress version, and you might be stuck with a broken website until that developer decides to get that product updated for you. Well, if you have your own backup, you can just roll back your site to before the update and wait for that software to get released before you actually upgrade it yourself again. I'm not familiar with that particular theme and plugin Ruben. I would imagine, though, that it's probably doing basically what I was just talking about. It probably creates a backup of the database and the files for you and, performs all the updates. I don't know how that product would actually work in terms of, safeguarding that data or what it does with it. During the update process, if it's just saving it locally on the same website, it, could potentially lose that information if something went wrong. Sometimes not, Brenda. When WordPress is first released, if you have a common combination of software that you find yourself using on each different WordPress site, like if you're following, my strategy and you use all the different plugins that I'm talking about on each of your sites, and you don't change that up from one site to the next, basically, you can kind of create like a test site for yourself where, you're not actually wanting to bring anybody to that website, but you just use it as your kind of test dummy site to where when a new version of WordPress comes out, you can go to that website and perform all the updates and, make sure everything is still working okay before you actually go and roll those changes out to your live sites. Because you can, it's not always, Brenda, most times you probably won't run into problems performing updates. I am guilty myself of going in here and clicking this update button without having a full database and file backup of my site, at least not in the form that it exists right before I click this button, to the point where if it caused any problems, I, would be in for some work. But I feel confident to be able to repair a site myself if I caused enough problems. But for people that are not technically inclined, I would definitely recommend to make a backup just to be on the safe side. And if you're not updating your site on a regular basis, if you're not changing the content on it, you won't necessarily have to continually make a new backup of your files in your database each time you go through and perform an update, because that information would essentially still be the same minus the updated files that continue to be added from the different updates that are performed. So worst case, rolling back to that original creation of the site, you should just simply be able to upgrade software past that point and get it back to its more recent state before the problems occurred. So you may not have to constantly be making new backups. It may be good enough to just make one once you've completed a site and just keep that, on the side burner as a just in case type of thing, just to ensure you don't lose your entire website should something, major go wrong with it. You're welcome, Brenda. Glad to help. So when it comes to updating WordPress itself, it's actually quite simple. Just click on the Update Now button, and it works just like it did with updating the plugins. It actually does it all for you automatically, and it even returns you back to the dashboard page. And after you've updated WordPress itself, the core WordPress, it will tell you a little summary of like what's new. So you can typically kind of look at these different updates that have been done in the new version of WordPress as long as you were, just using the version right before it, and kind of get a sense of whether some of this stuff might even affect you or not, because a lot of the updates that WordPress does, it's for special circumstance type of situations and not just the average standard content type of site. It may not, change anything with that site whatsoever. WordPress 3.7, I actually just realized that it released today. I'm not sure if it was actually released today or in the last couple of days or so, but it does not appear, at least at first glance, like anything updated here was anything major that would cause conflicts with sites that are using my plugins or other plugins that I recommend for people to use. Another part about it, I'm wanting to say that the automatic updating with WordPress actually starts happening, like not the main core updates, like yeah, it's mentioning it right here, WordPress 3.8. When WordPress 3.8 becomes available, you'll still have to go through and click on the Update Now button on the Updates page to actually get it to perform that upgrade. However, it looks like as of 3.7 now, they're actually automatically upgrading 3.7 to future versions to fix bugs and different security problems, perhaps. So whenever they release a bug fix for 3.7, it'll automatically update on your site now, so you won't have to update it manually again until 3.8, the next major release, is actually made available. So this really seems to be one of the primary 3.7 changes, at least that I have been able to notice so far, and also affects the updates that I was just talking to you guys about. So now the next class, guys, we will actually be moving on to constructing the website starting next week. That class is going to be on Wednesday, October the 30th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be diving in and not creating the entire website in that one class, but we will actually start out by creating the home page of the site and some category pages for the site. And I'll also be giving you guys a bit of a crash course on content writing and even writing and search engine optimization, so you guys can actually know how to proceed with writing your own content if that's not something that you're already familiar with doing, perhaps. And it will also help to give you some of my insights as far as what I'm trying to think about and the directions I'm trying to take with the writing that I'm doing, because that's probably the one aspect of this whole site building strategy of mine that I may not be able to necessarily teach you exactly what it is that I do, because I kind of change it up from one page to the next just depending on the topic that I'm trying to address. So I'll kind of be walking you guys through my thought process, so to speak, when it comes to my own content writing on my sites. So you can apply that to your own content writing and should help you to be a little versatile when it comes to so you're not just only able to write product reviews, for example. So you could write content about pretty much anything using, basically the same general strategies and principles. So the next week gets a little more exciting. We actually start getting some stuff done on the actual website. Everything leading up to this point was really just the research and getting everything set up and kind of learning how everything works. So I know it's a little more slow moving, but things definitely start to pick up quite a bit starting with the next class. So I look forward to seeing all of you guys there, and please let me know if you have any questions on anything that I have discussed this evening so far. Ruben, AmaSuite, I would say it is, I like the research side of it. Maybe not necessarily the building Amazon side because it does seem to do that using a lot of automated content. But the research software parts of it is really what I like about AmaSuite. Thank you, Clinton. I appreciate your comments. Let's see. Stan is asking, when you land on a new page, you'll get a semi-transparent opt-in box that pops up in the center of the page. I don't know. I'm sure there's probably got to be a lot of different products or plugins that create that. Stan, I would search for something like jQuery pop-up, JQUERY pop-up in like the add new plugins page right here. Should bring up something there. Basically all you would just need is a place to enter in your own custom HTML, and it would pop up that HTML in that semi-transparent box for you. But it is a jQuery, which is a JavaScript library that actually accomplishes that. Sure, Brenda. We can do that. Let's see. I was pulling up